Bad news is good news, so we can simplify this first week after Easter, an important week where we had important macroeconomic data such as inflation in the US, and also the retail sales. As mentioned, bad news, because it brings this information, especially in retail sales, brings the information of one cooling of the economy and therefore, consequently, we expect a more dovish central bank for the next appointments and therefore a more favorable situation. Let's see in particular what happened. We have had the recovery of sectors that until now had suffered particularly from the increase in rates. We are talking about the energy sector which, this week it's 3%, also mainly due to the recovery of oil, which in any case remains stable above $80.
Basic materials, and this is another sector that should suffer greatly from high rates, so what?
He's performing well, and the Francias that until now, let's say until 2 weeks ago, nobody wanted 3 weeks ago. Now, after the good earnings of JP Morgan, if he has succeeded, he is recovering from let's say the oversold of a few weeks ago. What about the sectors that are doing badly? We can see real estate continue to lose, even if we say their descent, I must say if it is very muted. In recent weeks only 1.6% less. Utilities if consumer deficits which did particularly well last week. Also note the technology that has made the lion in recent weeks. Now it is flattening 1 to 0.16 practically stopped because now this is the week that the earnings season begins and here I see, they are coming home to roost dears, so we have to see if all this enthusiasm we have had in the past weeks now translates into full-blown economic results. That is the LSP 500, not to mention in the Nasdaq since early January of last year. I had a good rally, minus the SP, wherein this ups and downs anyway. It recovered and back to the February highs, but mostly the Nasdaq. Here it had a performance of 24% and we find ourselves at the highs of last August, so now we have to do the math and see if everything actually is. I have all this enthusiasm, all this climb. It was partly justified by the slowdown in central bank aggressiveness, but we also have to see if this is it. If then, the earnings pay off all this climb and this remains to be seen. So here you find all the changed data. Obviously, inflation is expected to continue to decrease, it has now settled at 5%, then 1.413 is expected to arrive around 3.30 by the end of the year, 131, 3% however to be considered than the core component of inflation. It has risen slightly. We were 5.5 and we arrived at 5.6, so this is the part of inflation that looks at the central bank, so from this point of view some problems could arise. The bank could be more aggressive as regards the commitment of traders, stopped at last Tuesday, therefore, before the news. Concerning inflation, though, let's still say consistent with the market movements of the last few weeks. I especially want to swim, the coffee he had, which had a particular increase in net long contracts, and also of open interest, so I will definitely keep coffee on my watch list for, shopping for next week. Other movements I see a slowdown of the pound which was let's say, important up to now had, performance, really important. Now I'm starting to see some slowdown from, say, the pound's point of view. It is always a question of very strong euro compared AL to the dollar, so for my forecast the euro remains absolutely strong against the dollar. I don't see it on the horizon, at least before the ant, something that could. Let's see if we can slow down the strength that the euro has had on the dollar. SD. So I don't see any problems. Yes. Technically we are at the top. Someone could assume some sale, but I actually see that, but in the macro sense, there is a big gap between the euro and the dollar. And given that the euro is so strong, one could also speculate, and we have seen these weakening on the cot of the pound. One might think that this stage, let's say of lateralization, which the euro is having GBP could break and go higher in favor of the euro, hence this one. It's another situation, let's say I'll keep an eye on it next week. Why? The pound seems to be slowing down and therefore this situation needs to be studied carefully. Let's move on to the industries. In particular, the weekly performances. And we see that anyway, as mentioned, in the installment sectors they are the ones who They are having particular problems and will continue to have them, so you need to be patient. For this sector, I strangely see consumer staples suffer. And internet retail suffer then, This will surely have been in light of the retail sales that came out negative for these sectors, and therefore panicked investors have given up on these stocks a bit as a result. As for the ones that went better, marine shipping even 8.3 per 100, therefore a recovery of this maritime sector. We have the raw materials, we have solar energy, heavy machines. It's gradually, let's say, those sectors we have seen, so the banks, Lamber Faro, therefore always linked to the financial and material sectors. In particular, going by seeing these performances for regard, the companies of the SP 500. The performances let's see. I would like to see the short flop which is 1-1, an indicator that I like to see almost every week to my decisions about trading companies. And we see that. In particular, I wanted to report of companies related to the world of the insurance companies, which as far as I have seen have had a large drop in flat shorts, therefore in short positions on these tickets in particular. For 1-1, there is something more aggressive. HIG, Hartford Financial Services, who however had this collapse will be due to bring up any earnings. This is not a company I follow, or if we want to make a trade, let's say more softer, more trend following, let's say. There's this other ticker company ACGL, where we can. To think of. That's where ACGL loaded it. This is already a more trend follow position. 3 trend followings, still in the insurance sector, therefore. 2 companies to put on watch list for. So next week, to recap, earnings start next week, so volatility, so you have to be very careful with trades. As I said, as companies I will keep an eye on these insurance companies where they seem interesting to me. But what about Forex in particular? I'll take a look at Euro GP, to see if it will break this lateralization, and instead for futures I have seen very promising, very strong coffee. And so what? I think if market conditions allow it, that a good coffee opportunity may arise. Thank you for following us. I invite you again on our website Trendy Stocks Point Trade, to have all the updates and to stay updated and trade. Not like beasts I'd say, but 3 giving. With the data and seeing how the data is moving. I'll thank you until next time.